Welcome. So I took the SANS undergraduate certificate program, and now I want to do a review of my experience. I want to talk about what I learned, and I also want to give tips and advice on making the decision of whether you're going to go to a 4-year university, whether you're going to go to a boot camp, or if you're going to do a program such as this. So very simply, if you're not familiar with SANS, SANS is a institute based in the United States. So it's a private company. That this company was founded in 1989, and simply SANS provides cybersecurity training, research, and resources. So when it comes to their training, that's what they're most known for. But they also, if you go on YouTube, you see that they have content related to emerging cybersecurity trends, so on and so forth. But like I did say, that they are most known for their training. So for their training, they provide instructor-led and on-demand cybersecurity training. And they also operate the GIAC certification program. So you have SANS, which is the Learning Institute, and then you have GIAC, which is the certification program. So SANS is the institute where you're gonna, learn everything. You're gonna get the books. You're gonna watch the on-demand videos. You're gonna listen to your instructors, and so on and so forth. But then you have GIAC, which is the certification program. So after you have done and completed the SANS training, you're going to take the GIAC certification. So every SANS training is associated with a GIAC certification. And we're going to talk about some of those as we progress throughout this video. And then SANS also publishes security research and resources. So like I said, if you go on YouTube, you will see content related to SANS. They have really good podcasts. They have industry professionals that talk about cybersecurity, what's going on in cybersecurity. There's different webinars, sessions, and things like that. So they are I feel like they are one of the top organizations when it comes to cybersecurity and understanding cybersecurity, right? So let's talk about the SANS undergraduate certificate program. So their undergraduate certificate program, or Applied Cybersecurity Certificate, or ACS, is a upper division undergraduate program. That's what SANS has labeled it as. And let's quickly look at some of the requirements. So they do require two things that we're going to quickly look at. So first off, the program is for anyone 18 to 60. So you have to be 18 to 60 years old and up to take this certification. So just basically you have to be 18 and up. And also you have to have taken 2 years of college credits. 2 years of college credits. So if you did a community college, or if you plan on taking the program, you can do a community college for about 2 years, get your credits, and then do this program. So the format options is 100% online. That's the option that I did. That I feel like that's the most logical way to do it online, especially if you have a full-time job, or if you have, other obligations. There are 4 courses in this certification program, and we're going to talk about those 4 courses. There's 4 courses, and then there's 4 GIAC certifications. So like I said before, the 4 courses are the SANS courses, and then there are 4 certifications associated with those courses. And they are a total of 12 credits. The duration is 10 to 18 months. For me, I took about 11 months to 12 months. And the total program cost is $18,600. Now, for me, my organization that I was working for paid for my entire training. but I do know that this is a big investment for people. So the SANS website does have tuition payment plans. So you can make payments on your tuitions. And towards the end of the video, I'll show you what that would look like if you were to break down this number here. Right? So the certifications that you're going to take, there are going to be a total of 4 certifications, like I said earlier. However, there are 3 core courses that you're going to have to take. So there's 3 core courses and certifications that you must take in the undergraduate program. And they are GFACT or SEC 275, GSEC or SEC 401, and GCIH or SEC 504. Right? So once you've done those 3 courses, you have taken and passed the certifications, you can move on to the elective course. So as I mentioned, the elective course, essentially, SANS will allow you to choose out of the various options. So you have different domains in which you can choose from. So for the elective courses, it says it is 3 credits and you get to choose one. So let's look at them. So under the cyber defense domain, you have Blue Team Fundamentals or GSOC, Advanced Security Essentials or GSED, Intrusion Detection in Depth or GCIA. And then you have Cybersecurity Engineering, Advanced Threat Detection and Monitoring or GMON. Then if you're interested in the penetration testing, you can get into the web app penetration testing and ethical hacking or GWAPT, or the GPEN, which is enterprise penetration testing. You also have things related to digital forensics and incident response. You have GCFE or Windows Forensics Analysis, and Advanced Digital Forensics and Incident Response, GCFA. This is the elective that I chose, and we're going to talk a bit about that specific one. And then you have Cloud Security Essentials or GCLD, Cloud Security Controls and Mitigations or GPCS. Last but not least, you have Industrial Control Systems Security or Security Essentials for Industrial Control Systems, GICSP. So those are the various domains in cybersecurity, and those are the certifications that they allow you to choose from. So again, you have to take these 3 core courses. Once you've passed them, you have these options to choose from. So let's look at the GFACT, Security Foundations. Now, this is the first course you're going to take, and essentially it's 3 credit hours, right? And it's the best course available. That's what they're labeling it as. It's the best course available to learn core knowledge and develop practical skills in computers, technology, and security foundations that are needed to kickstart a career in cybersecurity. Look at the things that you're going to learn. The skills: computer components and concepts, operating systems, containers and virtualization, Linux, networking fundamentals, search engine and servers, Python and C, Windows foundations, CPU and memory encryption, introduction to basic security concepts, introduction to forensics, introduction to recon, exploitation and privilege escalation, and introduction to network and computer infiltration, lateral movement. If I could sum up this course very simply, I would say that it gave me a refresher. So I took the Security Plus, Network Plus, A Plus, all of those stuff back maybe 10 years ago. So when I was taking GFACT, I remember it being a good refresher for me. But then at the same time, I learned a lot about Python and C. I understood, the theory behind Python and C and as it relates to security. I also learned a good amount about encryption, and they introduced forensics very well. They gave you a basic understanding of forensics, and reconnaissance and these kind of types of tactics that threat actors use, but in a very simple and practical way. Because obviously, this is a beginner's entry level course. It's not going to dive into very complex tactics and things of that nature, but it is a good introduction. And I feel like I'm confident to say that anybody who has a basic understanding of IT could take this course, pass it, and move on to the next one. But in a nutshell, this is the GFACT. Very good introductory course. I would definitely say that this was a great place to start, and SANS did a really good job with this course. So after GFACT, we take GSEC, which is Security Essentials ACS 3401 or SEC 401. Now, GSEC is a technically oriented survey course in which you will learn the most effective steps to prevent cyber attacks and detect adversaries. So one of the main concepts surrounding this training was defense in depth. That was like the reoccurring theme throughout this entire training, and you get to learn about defense in depth through various hands-on labs and practical theoretical knowledge. So you get your first chance to get hands-on practical experience with the SANS training. So they provide hands-on labs, and they are awesome. They were great. And in a second, we're going to look at those, but let's just look at what else you're going to learn. So towards the end, you see that you'll learn practical tips and tricks to focus in on high priority security problems and on the actions required to protect and secure an organization's critical information assets and business systems. So it gives you an understanding of an organization's systems, the different various kinds of systems, whether it be a database, whether it be an application server or a server or application running on a server, so on and so forth, whether it be a cloud, some type of cloud infrastructure an organization may have, whatever it may be, Windows host, so on and so forth. But it gives you that knowledge from a business standpoint. This business has these systems. How do we go about securing those systems, right? Very good course. And as it relates to the hands-on or the lab environment, these are some of the tools, not all, but some of the tools that you're going to get experience utilizing. Snort, which is a network packet sniffer, Zeek, network security monitoring tool. You also get a very good introduction to PowerShell. Now, I've been working in cybersecurity for quite a long time, but for a really long time, I struggled with understanding PowerShell and how to utilize it. However, in this training, I loved how SANS structured PowerShell in a way that shows you how system administrators or security professionals utilize PowerShell. It also shows you how malicious threat actors utilize PowerShell, but it gives you an understanding of what PowerShell is, its functionality, its use case, and how it can be abused. So you get a very good understanding of that. And I can say the same thing about the Linux terminal. I had some experience with the Linux terminal, but through this training, I just gained a lot of confidence when it came to, running commands behind the terminal, being confident, running various commands to do various functionality on the Linux terminal. As you know, Linux is a different world as compared to Windows. It's a different world. It's a different environment completely. And having a strong understanding of the Linux terminal, especially in cybersecurity, is so important. I would say just having Linux experience can separate you in the job market, and the GSEC does a really good job of bringing that experience right in front of you, and you get to run various commands, and you also perform some security. You how do I say this? You are building a Linux system and making sure that it's secure at the same time to some extent in some of the hands-on trainings that they provide, right? And then last but not least, Wireshark, right? Wireshark, very powerful, very important tool. No matter what level of security you're at, you have to understand what Wireshark is. You have to understand the filters in Wireshark. You have to understand how to filter network traffic, how to take a packet capture, filter out, and find whatever network traffic you're trying to analyze and determine if it's malicious or legitimate network traffic. So Wireshark SANS puts you through a very important and very practical scenario where you're analyzing Wireshark. You're utilizing Wireshark to analyze packet captures and things of that nature. So I found that to be very, very helpful as well. So after GSEC, we have security incident handling and hacker exploits. In my opinion, this was my favorite training because I wanted to get a better understanding of incident response. And in this training, it's 3 credit hours as well, but you learn and you get a good understanding of in-depth investigation of the activity that happens during a security incident. So the entire incident response life cycle, you learn about that, preparation, things related to remediation, containment, lessons learned, eradication. I'm missing a few, but just know that in this training, that whole concept, that whole framework is going to be what you're going to be learning. So let's say you're in the containment phase. SANS has, in this GCIS training, in the containment phase, let's say you're learning about. They're going to have procedures, tools, scenarios, situations that are related to containment. Let's say you're in remediation or eradication. There's going to be tools, methods, procedures that relate to that specific layer of the incident response lifecycle. And it does it for all of them. And one big takeaway from this training is that the lessons that you learn and the way that they teach you how systems get exploited, they even give you opportunities to exploit websites, vulnerable websites. They show you how to perform certain exploits. They show you how to utilize tools like MSF Venom, which is a post-exploitation tool. You're going to see that in a second here, but being able to see how the hacker performs his hacks, seeing that as a defender changes your perspective on security. And when you're analyzing alerts or you're performing incident response, you're able to think like the threat actor, right? So this was a very great course, very great instructor that taught it as well. You know, you get very good lab exercises and it's just a great one. I had fun learning about it. So let's look at some of the tools that you will be utilizing. So you have TCP dump. It's like the command line version of Wireshark, essentially. You learn and utilize the tool volatility, which is a memory analysis tool. So if you have some memory that you want to analyze, you can utilize it. You can analyze it with volatility. Also Nmap. I'm sure you've heard of Nmap as just a basic discovery or reconnaissance tool to map out your network. However, this training shows you the depthness of Nmap. Nmap has scripts that you can run alongside of it that can give you more information about a system or systems on a particular network. And then, like I said, in Metasploit, you learn about the various different exploits available based on the system, based on the vulnerability you're trying to exploit, whatever it is you're trying to do. Very good and very important tool to have experience utilizing. Then you have Hashcat, which is just the advanced password recovery, learning how to crack passwords, things of that nature. So these are just some of the many lab tools that you get to use, many of the tools that you get to use. And this sharpens your knowledge. This certification really sharpens your knowledge when it comes to cybersecurity. So I had fun, like I said, probably said it like 4 times now, but you get the point. This is my favorite cert, very good cert. And let's look at the last certification. Last certification was my elective. Was my elective course, and as I said, I decided to take the Advanced Digital Forensics and Incident Response. Now, this certification took me about 2.5 to 3 months to do, and it's 3 credits, and essentially it's teaching you forensics from start to finish. How do you get to that root cause of why a system was compromised? Why was the system compromised? What initially caused that system to get compromised? So that's a very vague statement, but in this training, layer by layer by layer, you're inside of memory. You're utilizing tools like timeline analysis to build a logical scenario or sequence of how a hacker got onto a system, to how they performed their exfiltration or whatever impact that they performed. So you're utilizing various tools. You are creating memory images. You're utilizing various tools and things of that nature to perform your forensics analysis. This was a great certification. I did have issues with just being able to understand some of the concepts because it gets very deep towards the end when it starts talking about things like recovering a deleted file. They start going into various concepts that are very difficult to understand, but with patience and a lot of effort, you will find yourself passing the certification and the knowledge that you take away. I can be honest and say that a lot of the information that I learned, if you ask me a question, it would take me a second to remember, but a lot of the information is entered my subconscious. So what I mean is I don't have to do forensics on the day-to-day basis, but when I'm doing incident response at work or when I am doing SOC analysis work or whatever it may be, the information that I learned from GCFA as it relates to incident response and forensics is very powerful. And it really helps me understand just a simple procedure as making a timeline. How do I make a timeline when I'm investigating an alert? How do I make a timeline of what happened? This happened first, then after that, this happened, then this happened, then this happened. That simple concept I learned from GCFA. And that is super powerful when you're doing incident response, building a sequence of events on an incident. That's very powerful. Very good, sir. Let's look at some of the tools that were utilized. So you have tools like memprocfs or memory process file system, and you have tools like CAPE, Velociraptor, which is a very good tool for incident response. You can perform various types of analysis on a system. You can extract memory. You can see active connections on a system, so on and so forth. You also have Arsenal Image Mounter and things of that nature. So these are some of the tools. I don't want to go too much in depth on the types of tools, but these are some of the tools that you're going to get experience with. There's a lot more, but these were some of the tools that I remember taking that, were in this training. So all in all, GCFA was a great certification. If you're somebody that's interested in forensics or having a better understanding of incident response, I would definitely recommend you take this. They also have the GCFE, which is more focused and on the beginner parts of forensics. However, if you are confident in yourself, you can go ahead and do the GCFA, which is a great certification, and you'll learn a lot of knowledge. Now, one thing that I want to talk about as I wrap up this video is SANS undergraduate certificate program versus a 4-year college degree. Now, I can honestly say, as somebody who started out at a 4-year university, I dropped out and then went to a community college and then finished up at Western Governors University, I can say that I could have saved a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of energy if I had went to a community college, gotten my prerequisites out of the way, done my 2 years at a community college, and then done the SANS undergraduate certificate program. If I had even known about it. I didn't even know about it then. But if I had known about it, I would have definitely done and gone this route. Why do I say that? So in a 4-year university, you're taking a lot of theoretical classes. You're taking a lot of theory-related classes. How else can I say that? And as we know, based on the job market, cyber employers care more about skills and proof of work. So things like certifications, your portfolio, and hands-on projects. I have a mastermind group. I have a group of guys that I mentor as it relates to tech and cybersecurity. And these guys are in 4-year universities. And one thing that they're telling me is the lack of hands-on projects that they are working on. So what I'm trying to do is bridge that gap. So I'm trying to point them in the right direction when it comes to doing certain projects and things of that nature, building up your own home lab, because these are not things you do at a 4-year university. You're taking classes related to English, which is important. You're taking classes like theater, things like that. And in my honest opinion, time is of the essence. So I'll just leave it at that. It's a very touchy subject when it comes to 4-year versus doing a program or a boot camp, but I would highly recommend, if you're in high school or if you're already in a 2-year program, definitely look into the 4-year college. Not the 4-year college. I would say look into the SANS undergraduate certificate program. Even compare the price. I would say that a 4-year college degree is more expensive than the SANS undergraduate certificate program, and you can finish a lot faster. Also, 100% hands-on labs from real-world cyber scenarios. So when we say real-world cyber scenarios, there were certain labs in GSEC, GCIH, and GCFA that were so realistic. They were so realistic. As somebody who's worked in cybersecurity for a long time, I could really say that some of these scenarios that they put you through mimic real world experience. And that's you can never take that away. You can never take that type of experience away. When you don't have real cybersecurity experience, but you have real world cybersecurity scenarios thrown at you, it's wonderful. That's all I can say. The third reason why I would recommend the undergraduate certificate program is because it directly maps to SOC, incident response, and security and analyst roles. So like I said, those scenarios, they mimic real world scenarios. They help you think like a security operations center. They help you think like an incident response analyst. And these are questions that employers are going to be looking for. They're going to be asking, and they're going to want to know your perspective. A lot of the times when they're asking you questions, they want to see how you think. And because this training maps to SOC, IR, and security analyst roles, when you get into those interviews, even though you don't have real world experience yet, because you've taken these types of trainings, because you've gotten experience doing hands-on labs with tools like Velociraptor, so on and so forth, like I showed in this training, the employer is going to be a lot more confident to give you a chance than somebody who has a 4-year college degree. Now, every situation may be different, but that's my opinion, and that's what I think based on my knowledge and experience. And then, last but not least, the SANS undergraduate certificate program is taught by top industry instructors with active field experience. So one practical example I can give is in the GCFA certification, the last cert that I took. The person that taught the training, I can't remember his name, but he was a security consultant. And I remember in the training, he kept giving practical examples of how organizations would call him to help solve security related problems when their own security team could not solve those problems. So let's say you have an organization with an internal security team and there is a hacker on their network active. So that organization, for let's say for a week, they're unable to find and stop whatever the adversary is doing. So they call this guy to come solve the problem. And he would come in and, of course, solve the problem. And he would give various examples of how he would do that. That is a top industry professional right there. And for that same person to then teach a course, it's untouchable. That type of knowledge that I gained from just various experiences that he talked about, it was amazing. And they're knowledgeable. They know how to teach very well. I feel like one of the core things to know that you have good understanding of a subject is you can teach that subject in a very simple and efficient way. And not just in GCFA, GCIH, GSEC, and GFAT. All four were taught by industry instructors with active field experience. I'm not throwing shade on professionals or professors, but I did have somebody else in my mastermind mentorship group that talked about how their professor, it sounded like they had not worked in cybersecurity in a really long time. And I'm sure some universities require you to be in the field as well. But when I hear things like that, it kind of scares me because these guys are paying a lot of money to these professors who may have worked in cybersecurity 10 or 15 years ago. And obviously it's changed. So this is not a video to say that a 4-year university degree is not important, but in my experience and from my journey, the SANS undergraduate certificate program would make the most sense. So I did mention that the total program cost for the SANS undergraduate certificate program is $18,600 US. So on the SANS website, sans.edu, if you go to tuition/funding and you click on tuition payment program, if you look at the monthly installment rate and you look for undergraduate applied security certificate program, you can see that this is the payment option you have available. $650 USD. And you're going to pay that for 2.5 years. Right? So that was my review of the SANS undergraduate certificate program. If you have any other questions, leave a comment. If you think this video would be helpful for somebody you know in cybersecurity that's trying to get into cybersecurity or whatever, feel free to share it with them. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.